Hi, and welcome to Cenario, your partner in mental wellness. Here on our channel, we share educational, insightful, and science-backed content to help you understand your mental health and take meaningful steps toward a more balanced life. If you're ready to learn, grow, and take control of your wellness journey, let's jump right in.
Okay, we've all done it, right? We say things like, oh, I'm so OCD about my desk, or I'm totally obsessed with this new show. But what if I told you that the way we casually throw those words around is a world away from what they actually mean in a clinical sense? Today, we are going to pull back the curtain on the real difference between an obsession and a compulsion. And more importantly, why getting that difference right is the absolute first step to understanding the powerful cycle of OCD. So let's just ask it straight up. Are they the same thing? It's a totally fair question, because in everyday language, we kind of use them interchangeably. But here's the thing. In the world of psychology, they aren't just synonyms for a strong interest or a personal quirk. Nope. They are two very different, very distinct pieces of a puzzle. And figuring out exactly how they lock together is everything. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, all right, but come on. Why does this little distinction really matter so much? And you know what? That's a great question. But when we're talking about mental health, clarity is king. Using the right language isn't just about being technically correct. It's the key that unlocks real understanding, accurate diagnosis, and, most importantly, effective treatment. I want you to imagine trying to fix a really complex engine, but you don't know the names of any of the parts. That's kind of what it's like when we can't accurately describe what's going on in our own heads. It makes it so much harder to spot the patterns, to explain what's happening to a doctor, or to really get on board with a treatment plan. Getting the terms right is like turning on the lights and finally getting a clear map of what's going on inside.
All right, so let's break it down. We're going to look at the core components, starting with a simple side-by-side comparison to make the fundamental difference totally clear from the get-go.
So check this out. The easiest way to think about this is source versus response. The obsession, that's the source of the problem. It's the intrusive thought, the unwanted image that just pops into your head and starts everything. The compulsion, well, that's the response. It's the action you take to try and fix the problem. So one is the trigger for all the anxiety, and the other is the desperate attempt to make that anxiety go away. Okay, so let's zoom in on obsessions. Think of an obsession like a really aggressive, really awful pop-up ad in your brain. You didn't click on it, you don't want to see it, and it's showing you something that you find deeply upsetting or disturbing. The clinical term for this is ego dystonic, which is just a fancy way of saying these thoughts feel totally alien to you. They go against your core values, and that's why they're so distressing. They're unwanted intruders, not a reflection of your character. And here's its partner in crime, the compulsion. This is the thing you do. It could be a physical action that someone can see, or it could be a silent ritual that happens only in your mind. Either way, it's something you feel this intense pressure to perform. And the goal here isn't to feel good. It's a frantic attempt to neutralize the threat from the obsession and just turn down the volume on that screaming anxiety. But, as we're about to see, this quick fix is actually a trap. So, here's the most important part, how these two pieces connect. They aren't just a random pair. They are two gears that lock together perfectly to create this powerful, self-fueling engine that drives the OCD cycle forward, and it gets stronger every single time it spins. And here it is, the engine of OCD in action. It all kicks off with an obsession, which immediately spikes your distress levels. To quiet that awful feeling, a compulsion is performed. And for a brief moment, there's relief. But that's the catch. That relief is like a little hit of gasoline, reinforcing the entire pattern and making the engine run even faster and stronger the next time around. Think of it this way. Your brain learns a very simple but very powerful lesson. Hey, when that terrifying alarm, the obsession, goes off, if I just hit this big red snooze button, the compulsion, the horrible noise stops. The problem is, the alarm is guaranteed to come back, and you become more and more dependent on hitting that snooze button. That's what psychologists call negative reinforcement, and it's the glue that holds the whole powerful cycle together.
But what happens when that snooze button is invisible? See, the OCD cycle isn't always something you can watch unfold. Not all compulsions are obvious things like washing hands or checking locks. Let's dig into the hidden side of this cycle.
This brings us to something you might have heard of called pure O. Now, that name is actually pretty misleading because the compulsions are absolutely still there. The only difference is they're happening entirely inside the person's head. They're invisible rituals. And this can be incredibly isolating, right? Because from the outside, it looks like nothing is even happening. And here are just a few examples of what those hidden rituals can look like. It could be replaying a conversation in your head 100 times, checking for mistakes, or silently repeating a safe word to cancel out a bad thought. These mental gymnastics serve the exact same purpose as washing your hands 20 times, to get a moment of relief from the distress. And it is so critical to get this. Just because you can't see these compulsions doesn't make them any less serious. They can eat up just as much time, drain just as much mental energy, and be just as debilitating as any physical ritual. They trap a person in a silent, exhausting internal battle. So, if that's the powerful, reinforcing engine of OCD, how in the world do you shut it down? Well, effective treatments are all about throwing a wrench in the gears by breaking one single crucial link in that cycle. This right here, this is where the magic happens. The goal of treatment isn't to stop the obsessions from ever popping up. Instead, it's all about breaking the connection between the compulsion and that feeling of relief. It's about learning to sit with the discomfort of the obsession without hitting the snooze button, and discovering that, eventually, that alarm will turn off all by itself. The gold standard therapy for doing this is called exposure and response prevention, or ERP. The exposure part means gradually facing the thoughts or situations that trigger the obsession. The response prevention part is the hard work, resisting the urge to do the compulsion. Over time, your brain actually learns a new lesson. Hey, that thing I was so afraid of, I can handle it. The fear starts to lose its power. So we'll leave you with this final thought. Understanding the difference between an obsession and a compulsion is way more than just a vocabulary lesson. It's like being handed a map of the OCD engine. And once you have that map, you're not lost anymore. You can see the whole pattern laid out, and you can see exactly where you or someone you care about have the power to intervene, to break the cycle, and to find a new path forward.
Thank you for watching Cenario. If this video helped you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. For personalized mental wellness supplements, visit Cenario.com. See you in the next one.